Is this the kind of under-the-radar signing that separates contenders from pretenders when October baseball arrives? There's a quiet determination in the air at Rogers Center this offseason, and it's not coming from the flashy headlines or the big-money contracts dominating the ticker. No, this is about something deeper, something that championship-caliber organizations understand in their bones. The Toronto Blue Jays just made their first move of MLB free agency, and while it won't shake the baseball world, it might just be the kind of calculated chess move that pays dividends when rosters are tested under playoff pressure. The Blue Jays have signed former Philadelphia Phillies infielder Rodolfo Castro to a minor league deal with a spring training invitation. First reported by MLB insider Ari Alexander, this acquisition represents the opening salvo in what promises to be a fascinating offseason for a franchise desperate to reclaim its position among the American League's elite. The Castro profile more than meets the eye. Let's cut through the noise and examine what Toronto is actually getting here. Rodolfo Castro isn't a household name. He's not going to sell jerseys or generate social media frenzy. But dismissing this signing as insignificant would be a fundamental misunderstanding of how championship rosters are constructed in modern baseball. Castro brings 194 games of Major League experience accumulated between the Pittsburgh Pirates and Philadelphia Phillies from 2021 through 2023. That's not a throwaway number. That's nearly a full season's worth of big league at-bats and defensive innings. He's seen Major League pitching. He's felt the pressure of meaningful games. He understands what it takes to survive at the highest level. The 26-year-old switch hitter spent all of 2025 in AAA with the Phillies organization, which might look like a step backward on paper. But context matters. Sometimes talented players get caught in organizational logjams. Sometimes they need a change of scenery. Sometimes they're one opportunity away from unlocking their full potential. What makes Castro particularly intriguing is his defensive versatility. He's handled multiple infield positions throughout his career, giving him the kind of positional flexibility that modern managers crave. In an era where roster construction demands maximum adaptability, having a player who can credibly man second base, third base, or shortstop in a pinch is invaluable. Why this move makes strategic sense for Toronto, the Blue Jays didn't stumble into this signing by accident. This is deliberate roster architecture, and it addresses several specific needs that plagued Toronto throughout the 2024 season. Depth was devastated last year. Injuries forced constant lineup reshuffling, exposing the thin margins between contention and mediocrity. When your everyday players go down, you need capable replacements ready to step in without the entire season derailing. Castro provides that insurance policy. Versatility is the currency of championship rosters. The Blue Jays have been explicit about their offseason priorities. They want more positional flexibility, more internal competition, and more options when adversity strikes. Castro checks every single box. A switch-hitting infielder who can play multiple positions? That's not just depth, that's strategic depth. Competition breeds excellence. By bringing in Castro on a minor league deal with a spring training invite, the Blue Jays are creating competition for roster spots. Nobody gets comfortable. Nobody assumes their position is guaranteed. That internal pressure elevates performance across the board. Consider the alternative scenario. The Blue Jays enter spring training with the same roster construction that failed them previously, hoping injuries won't strike again. That's not a plan, that's wishful thinking. Championship organizations prepare for adversity rather than hoping to avoid it. The hidden value in minor league deals, here's where casual fans often miss the forest for the trees. Minor league deals with spring training invitations are low-risk, high-reward propositions that smart front offices exploit relentlessly. The financial commitment is minimal. If Castro doesn't make the roster out of spring training, the Blue Jays haven't sacrificed anything meaningful. But if he forces his way onto the opening day roster through strong performance, suddenly Toronto has added a versatile switch-hitting infielder without blocking payroll flexibility for bigger moves. This is how organizations maximize value in the margins. The difference between playoff teams and also-rans often comes down to the 23rd through 26th roster spots. Those players matter. They're the ones who step up when stars get hurt. They're the ones who provide crucial pinch-hitting or defensive replacements in tight games. They're the ones who keep seasons alive when everything seems to be falling apart. Castro has shown legitimate pop in his bat during his major league tenure. Switch hitters with power potential don't grow on trees. If the Blue Jays player development staff can refine his approach and help him make more consistent contact, they might have stumbled onto a genuine contributor rather than just organizational depth. The hunger factor. Never underestimate motivation. There's an intangible element to this signing that shouldn't be overlooked. Castro is hungry. He's 26 years old, right in the prime of his athletic career, and he just spent an entire season in AAA watching other players get opportunities at the highest level. That creates a specific kind of motivation that can't be manufactured. Players in Castro's position have something to prove. They're not comfortable. They're not satisfied. They're fighting for their baseball lives, and that desperation often translates into maximum effort and performance. The Blue Jays are betting that Castro's hunger will push him to extract every ounce of his talent during spring training and beyond. Championship teams understand how to harness that hunger. They create environments where motivated players can thrive, where internal competition elevates everyone, and where opportunities are earned rather than given. Castro represents exactly that philosophy in action. How this fits the bigger picture. This signing is just the opening move in what promises to be an active offseason for Toronto. The Blue Jays are operating in a crowded American League where the margin between playoff teams and disappointment is razor thin. Every decision matters. Every roster spot counts. By addressing depth and versatility early, the Blue Jays position themselves to be more aggressive in other areas. They can pursue starting pitching or outfield, help knowing they've already shored up infield depth. They can take calculated risks elsewhere because they've created a safety net. Smart organizations think in terms of roster construction rather than individual signings. Castro isn't the solution to Toronto's championship aspirations by himself, but he's a piece of the puzzle. Combined with other moves, he contributes to building a roster that can withstand the inevitable adversity of a 162-game season. The AL East remains brutally competitive. The Yankees, Orioles, and Rays aren't going anywhere. The Red Sox are trying to resurge. Every team is looking for edges, searching for advantages, hoping to find the combination that unlocks October success. In that environment, depth signings like Castro aren't luxuries, they're necessities. The spring training battleground awaits. Now comes the fascinating part. Watching Castro compete for a roster spot when spring training arrives. He'll be battling against other depth options, trying to prove he deserves to break camp with the big league club. That competition will be fierce, and it should be. The Blue Jays need players who can handle pressure and perform when everything is on the line. Castro has the tools. He has the experience. He has the motivation. The question becomes whether he can put it all together when the opportunity arrives. Can he show enough in spring training to force the Blue Jays' hand? Can he demonstrate that he's not just organizational depth, but a legitimate contributor? Those questions will be answered in the coming months, but the Blue Jays have positioned themselves beautifully. They've added a motivated player with upside at minimal cost. They've created internal competition. They've addressed a specific roster need. That's smart baseball operations, regardless of whether the signing generates headlines. Final analysis. Small moves, big implications. The Rodolfo Castro signing won't dominate sports talk radio. It won't trend on social media. Casual fans might not even notice it happened. But make no mistake, this is exactly the type of move that separates well-run organizations from mediocre ones. Championship rosters aren't built solely through blockbuster trades and nine-figure free agent contracts. They're constructed through dozens of smaller decisions that collectively create depth, versatility, and organizational strength. The Blue Jays just made one of those decisions, and it deserves recognition for what it represents. A commitment to building a roster capable of withstanding the marathon of a baseball season. Castro gets his chance. The Blue Jays get a motivated infielder with upside, and baseball fans get to watch whether this under-the-radar signing becomes one of those stories we talk about when October arrives and rosters are tested to their limits. The question isn't whether this signing alone changes Toronto's championship odds. The question is whether the Blue Jays continue making smart, calculated moves that collectively position them for success. Based on this opening salvo, they're thinking the right way. This is the kind of move that matters when the games count most. What do you think? Is Castro a hidden gem waiting to break through, or just organizational depth? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're excited to see how the Blue Jays offseason unfolds, smash that like button, and let's keep this conversation going.